Basically, I'm reflecting on how marriage is pushed on women so hard, and if we're single, we're looked down upon. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
I
like, oh,
got you.
you're not doing what you're supposed to do as a wife or as a woman because you're married or you're single. And a lot of men
Oh.
don't believe that women are single by choice. A lot of men think that women are single because their standards are too high or they're not good women. And it's like,
Mhm.
truthfully,
What's happening, sis? How you living?
I'm doing good, blessed, and highly favored.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, uh-oh. What's
What's
up? What's
up?
up? What's up? What's your question? Sound like you got some oil over there. What's your question?
You already know. So I was just, I was on a live earlier, and I was just trying to contemplate like the purpose of marriage and how, as a woman in the scriptures, it says that if you don't have a husband, you're in direct servitude of your creator. So therefore, instead of having to worry about the needs of your husband, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with serving the Most High's children, husband, family, kids, whatever it may be. I just think that when you are choosing to live in your singleness and learning to stay isolated, you are building the kingdom in a more impactful way, because you can directly pinpoint the needs of the kingdom versus going through another human being, which may be your husband. And for males, it might be a different experience because you guys are supposed to be the head of the home, but it's almost like working at a job and trying to convince the CEO through your manager to make changes to the company structure versus being in direct communication with the CEO and not having to go through anyone. If that makes sense, does that make sense?
That's such an interesting picture. So you referenced something. I want to be sure I caught. You mentioned wives. What again?
Basically, wives are in servitude to their husbands, and then the husband is in servitude to the Lord. So it's a chain of command versus when you choose to be in your singleness as a woman without the marriage structure, you are in
Mhm.
direct communication and direct servitude to the Lord.
Okay. So are you reflecting on um let me see.
Basically, I'm reflecting on how marriage is pushed on women so hard, and if we're single, we're looked down upon. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
I
like, oh,
got you.
you're not doing what you're supposed to do as a wife or as a woman because you're married or you're single. And a lot of men
Oh.
don't believe that women are single by choice. A lot of men think that women are single because their standards are too high or they're not good women. And it's like,
Mhm.
truthfully, I'm no good to any man if I'm not in direct alignment with my creator. If I feel like me and him are missing a beat, then I'm not good for anyone, man or woman.
Yeah, yeah. And so what would you say is
Okay, thank
your
you. It's the black Honda right here. Thank you.
what would you
Sorry, I'm
say?
listening.
No, you're good. What would you say is your is there a question? Because I do have a thought and I have a very beautiful passage of scripture I want to bring up.
Well,
Um
no, I
yeah.
don't have a direct question. He says in your caption here says marriage isn't the goal, and I
Mhm.
agree because I think that my goal of all goals is to make sure I'm in the book of life and I am crowned as his, faithful servant at the end of the day. My role with
Facts.
having children or being I think a lot of men categorize women, and not just men. Society as a whole is like, okay, you need to be a helpmeet, you need to be an
Mhm.
offspring creator. But at the end of the day, there's so many children on this planet that you can help that don't have to come out of your body, and there's so many men that could have support from you that may not be your husbands. They might not be your husband. They could be a brother, they could be a cousin, and they still need feminine support. It might not be in a covenant bond like a marriage or a wife duty, whatever, but I just think marriage is not the goal on this planet. A marriage is supposed to represent the bond between the Most High and us as the bride. That is the marriage, and that's the purpose of marriage. That's the only physical manifestation, metaphoric comparison of God. So therefore, that's why he pushes for marriage and pushes for the union. But at the end of the day, people misconstrue that to their own benefit. They try to make it seem like that's what the purpose of women is. And I
Mm.
see that as a selfish thing. I see that as you're just trying to gain from that dual household or from that support system. And you're not leaning on God enough, clearly, because why are you pushing for me to be your help me? Why aren't you pushing for yourself to ask for help from your creator when he's the one who can do all and see all?
I mean, I you want to this is your podcast now. I don't know what more to do. I don't I don't know what more to do. I love that. I agree wholeheartedly. I think one, not everybody's going to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Two, marriage is not for everybody.
Right.
And three, there is so much beautiful value to singleness, and everyone that is single is not because they can't find nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
This.
promise you, I promise you, there's a lot of now. Again, I'll leave this up, for y'all because y'all know y'all better than anyone. Like there is plenty of opera. Like if you really wanted to, it ain't that hard.
Mm-mm.
It ain't that hard. Like I'll
No.
have a date by the end of the week and she'll be mine by the end of the month. He'll be, whatever it is. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not that hard. Um, it's just really about being mindful of who has access to you. It's being
Mm-hmm.
mindful of the center purpose and goal and what aligns well. It's, more about being intentional with who you choose and who you connect with, all the things. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
I think singleness, people don't recognize this because I think it's been said so much without giving, I think, ample amount of context to the value of it. Singleness is
Mm-hmm.
a gift.
Yes.
And
It's a
so,
spiritual protection if you think about it. Like if you have that
mhm.
opportunity to be single, you are defending your spirit and preserving it from those things that might other people will cling to out of desperation because they have no connection with the source.
Yeah, it's very possible, right? So I think of it like, when you maybe if you find like an antique laying around the crib, grandma gave, and you don't think it has no value, so you might take it to the pawn shop, and it's
Mm-hmm.
deep when they like, hey, so you said this was what year, and this is how long ago? Who gave this to you? Now they're
Right.
starting to look in the back. Hey, y'all come look at this. Y'all see this? And then they all of a sudden the value of that gift became so much more to you because you're understanding what you had in your hand the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same way with your singleness. Paul really talks a lot about this. He says something that's almost a cuss word that a lot of people don't come to in scripture. He says, uh, okay, I'll just read this. I'll just read this whole part.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 1 of First Corinthians 7. He says this. Now, regarding the questions you asked in your letter, yes, it is good to abstain from sexual relations, but because there is so much sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman should have her own husband. The husband should fulfill his wife's sexual needs. The wife should fulfill her husband's needs. The wife gives authority over her body to her husband, and the husband gives authority over his body to his wife. Do not deprive each other of sexual relations unless you both agree to refrain from sexual intimacy. All the things. So I wanna come down to, um yeah, I think is it here? Uh, oh, no, no, no. Okay, here it is. So I'm actually going to skip down
Mm-hmm.
to verse 32 of that same chapter. I want you to be free from the concerns of this life. An unmarried man can spend his time doing the Lord's work and thinking how to please him.
Mm.
But a married man has to think about his earthly responsibilities and how to please his wife.
Exactly.
His interests are divided. In the same
Mm.
way, a woman who is no longer married or has never been married can be devoted to the Lord and holy in body and in spirit.
Mm.
But a married woman has to think about her earthly responsibilities and how to please her husband. I am saying this for your benefit, not to place restrictions on you.
Mm.
I want you to do whatever will help you serve the Lord best with as
Mm.
few distractions as possible.
Mm.
There's a passage in here where he says, I wish all of you were like me and
Mm-hmm.
single like me, right? And so oh, here it is. He says it in verse 7 of that same passage earlier in the chapter. But I wish everyone were single, just as I am. Yet each person has a special gift from God
Thank
of
you.
one kind
You too.
or another. And so what's beautiful is like, yeah, Paul was single. He had an amazing gift. It was a different type of anointing around that gift and all the things. but he speaks highly of singleness because of what you're available to do,
You're literally
right?
free.
There's a level of availability to what you can do, intentionality to what you can create.
Yes.
Being a husband or being a wife, like you can't spend all day building your business.
Nope.
You got to go tend to the kids and everyone else in the home. But here's what's beautiful about this. That isn't to say that doing that is a distraction.
Right.
That's to say that that's also now become part of your assignment, right? So
Right.
that's become part of what you serve and what you build. Beautiful. It's all beautiful.
Right.
It's just when you're single, you have less to put your time to, in regards to what relationships really offer, and more to put time to what you're creating and cultivating. And all of it's a beautiful thing. I want
Yeah.
people to understand that, even though the singleness demographic, percentage of singleness increases, all the things, it's not all because everyone can't find nobody. Some of us
Right.
just enjoy our singleness. This is the contentment behind the singleness. And if the
Yeah.
time came where it made sense, beautiful.
Yeah.
But I'm also not living a life where I'm constantly, sad or depressed in the event that that doesn't happen. And to those who
Right.
are in those places, there's some things that we have to reframe and consider and process. But yeah,
Mm.
marriage is not the goal. The goal for even a marriage, and for people who are in marriage, is to supposed to still remain the same: to serve
Mm.
God, and love people.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is supposed to, if you're telling me you're getting married to replace that, then you have a wrong idea of what marriage is. Because all of that is going to, come together and play a role as we grow and do life together. I think there is immense value in where we are. I've told people before, marriage isn't the goal, presence is. And you said
Mm-hmm.
it beautifully in the chat, regarding presence. The more that I'm present, the more value I see around me. The more value I see around me, the more I'm willing to just simply embrace it, live in it, frolic in it, whatever you want to say. That
Mm-hmm.
allows me to be as full as possible. I There was a time where I used to look at relationships and be like, "Dang, I really want something like that." Until I realized the very feelings I thought I could only experience there, I learned I could experience in my now.
Yes.
Now the abundance to get into that is only increasing.
And may I say something real quick?
Yeah, please.
So I do think, well, there's obviously a biological pull to have a relationship and procreate. The Most High made us that way so that we don't go extinct, right? So I think understanding from a biological standpoint what satisfies you outside of human physical connection will help you stay content in your singleness way longer.
She's in better connection. She'll come back. No point in dating if the end goal is not marriage. So that is not what we're saying. Facts over feelings, right? So that is not what we're saying, and that's the very thing that I'm actually addressing. So like everybody, we date to marry. Like yes, I think anybody who wants marriage, we clearly get that. We're not even discussing that. The point of it is there's no point in dating if the end goal is not marriage. And what people don't realize they're doing is, in the event of dating, you're not being present enough to get to know who you're connecting. So the only reason you're meeting with somebody of the opposite sex is because this has to go to a place of marriage. So you don't even leave room for the opportunity to meet somebody who maybe has something you need that isn't even in a romantic field, and you can stay connected to them. This is how, like, the whole conversation of men and women can't be friends is like completely upside down for me. It's diabolical. Now, I do think there's different restrictions, right? If you're married, obviously there's some things you can't go and do and connect with and have. Okay, cool. And those are different conversations. But there are people who are single who don't even value friendships of the opposite sex. Because if I'm connected to you and if I'm in the proximity of you, it's either going to look like we're dating, or it has to be that I'm interested in you. The only reason I'm friends with you is because I have to eventually get room enough to date you and to court you. Because, well, why are we hanging out if we're not dating? Why are we hanging out? You're either my brother or my man. And then what's crazy is the brother gets tossed to the side, the sister gets tossed to the side. It's almost like a whole another realm. I completely disagree with the aspect that men and women can't be friends as singles. I even think marriages, like I think there's different, obviously boundaries and things you want to put in place where things don't get too blurred and cross the line. But I think it's absolutely asinine that men and women are not suggested to be friends in a single space. I think that's crazy. And I think that just shows where our culture is in the terms of what you think. Yeah, I think females are part of that equation too. I agree. It's a lack of self control. Um, there's a lot of programming and assumptions made to those things, but that's why I address this conversation with that intentionally, because somebody will come in, marry. Why date if marriage isn't the goal? And I get what you're saying, but at the same time, if we're doing this and we're dating, and then marriage isn't something that we end up getting to as a result to dating one another, courting one another, we then believe it was a waste of time. We then believe it was, we were dumb, we were fools, all the things that we'll label. That's not the case. Like, that's a lack perspective, not an abundant one. Just like, again, I'm only going to, why am I talking to you if we don't date and if we don't learn if one another makes sense to be spouses together? To me, that just misses the entire point, and you're not present enough to even connect, because you'll never know who God could use, even in the event of them not being your significant other, that they could bless your life in abundance of ways. But yet here you are, because you're only so, and I'm not saying this is you, facts or feelings, I'm just speaking in general. Like, here someone is only thinking about, hey, this has to go into this direction, and you miss this person, you miss the opportunity, you miss the connection. And that's a shame. That's the saddest part of it all.